is friends. Today we'll be seeing a concept called key squares. Now, key squares is something like this. So, see, uh, you have a pawn end game, and then you have three squares in front of it. So, so here we can see that pawn. Here we can see that we have to make the correct move, and pawn endings are very concrete. Even the tiniest change in the position alters the shape and outcome of the struggle. Here you can barely get along on general principles. Pawn and game, you must know how to calculate accurately. Now, the study of pawn and game boils down not to the memorization of positions but to the assimilation of standard techniques, which considerably eases our search for a solution and the calculation of variations. Now, many pawn endgames are clearly defined tempo battles. Now, in these, speed is everything. Which pawn will queen first? Will the king come in time to stop the passed pawn or get to the other side of the board in time? But there are pawn endings where a maneuvering war predominates and which Zugzwang assumes paramount importance. So maneuvering endgames are more complex than rapid one generally. So we will begin with the maneuvering endgames. So today we'll be acquiring the vital concept of uh, key squares. Now, key squares are what we call those squares when occupied by the king, by the side of the king which has the pawn, of course, assures victory regardless of whose turn it is to move. In other endgames of in other types of endgames, we may speak of key squares for other pieces besides the king. So the d5 square on which the king stands is not a key square. White to move does not win. The key squares are c6, d6, and e6. So these are the key squares. Black to move must retreat the king, allowing the enemy king into one of the key squares. With white to move, the position is drawn since he cannot move to any key square. So let's go to example 2. Well, here you can see that with the pawn on the fifth rank, the key squares are not only a7, b7, c7, but also a6, b6, and c6. And white wins even if he is on move. So king a6 need to be played because if king c6, then the king is coming to c7. And then there's this stalemating scenario after king c7. Well, you have to play king c7. If b6 check, the king 8, and this is a draw because white sends zugzwang and he can't play king c7 because of stalemate. So here after king c7, king a8, white needs to play king b6 and then transition to the main position and play king a6. If white plays b6, then there it is stalemate. So king a6 needs to be played, and after king a8, because of course if king c8, then king a7, c8 or c7 only move. So if king a8, then b6 and then b7, and this is just lost for black. So I hope you understood the concept because now we'll be putting your knowledge to the test. We have two exercises here. The first one is quite wait, yeah, the first one is quite easy. So what would you play in this position? Yeah, so I hope you thought about that because here we play. Firstly, the key squares are a6, b6, and c6. The sensible thing is to head for the square farthest from the enemy king, since that will be the hardest to defend, and that is a6. So white aims for that and plays king c2, king e7, king b3, king d6, king a4. If king c4, then king c6 is a draw. So king a4 needs to be played, and then king a5 heading for a6, and after king b7, king b5. We already learned that in this position black is in zugzwang and white will head to the key square. So key squares are generally one file ahead of the king. So let's go to next example. So the next example is this. So white to move and white to move and win. Well, what would you play here? Well, well, the correct solution is to continue with king f2, because if king g1 then king d7 comes and the king reaches the pawn. So king f2 and now h4 is played to avoid king g3, because if king d7 then this is just bad. So h4 and now not king f3, because h3 is played and g takes h3, the king can just head for h8, and if g4 then king d7, king g3, king e6, and the king goes to g6, and this is a draw. But king g1, the idea of king g1 is to play king h2, king h3, king h4, and black cannot stop that. If black plays h3 then we go g3, and the key squares for a pawn on g3 on the third rank are on the fifth rank, so that is closer to white's king. So white just takes, and then white just gets, and then white will get to the fifth rank, any of these key squares in the next move. So yeah, that was the concept of key squares. Now this is really important um, sometimes in king pawn endgames when you want to know you're winning or not. So that was the video. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.